Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Hello everyone and welcome one and all. Welcome to PSGL PCF4 and welcome to the finale. It's the finale round, it's round 12. We are here in Abu Dhabi and a traditional ender for the season, of course the track, but we made it. We're here and of course joined by the one and only Myths guy. How are you feeling about this round, mate?
Oh, feeling pretty good. I think it's very typical to have Abu Dhabi here as the season finale, so it's good to see that we have that track here on the card. So this is round 12, our final round of season 34. And, well, we've had quite a season, haven't we, Sappy?
Well, quite a season indeed. I think first things first, we've got to look at the standings of last round, and we've got to look at where we currently stand. So good news is that stewards didn't have that much of a difficult job last time out. So we saw a few warnings and a couple of license points being awarded out, but the only substantial penalty was to Corne de Baca, who ended up getting put down into P10 for an unsafe move in lap 15. But of course we had Lillian taking what we would say is quite comfortably a grand slam. They got the best run in quali, they got the best run in the race, and that remains unchanged. So the 16 points. The only thing they didn't get is the fastest lap, and that went to Kokeni Tamas down in what eventually finished P12, but the reserve driver getting that fastest lap. And you can see the standings on screen. What do you make of them?
I think last week we've had a pretty crucial race for Lillian. Up until last race, we had about 6 drivers still in contention for the title. That has now dropped down to 3, in which Lillian really has the best cars there. I mean, he basically already has one hand on the trophy. The only thing that he needs to do is make sure that someone else doesn't chop his other hand off. But given the fact that nobody will be running around with any razors or knives or whatnot, I think Lillian should be fairly safe. There's a 12-point gap to Milan Meyer, 16-point gap to Sven Schumacher. And since Lillian has more race wins, if they are to draw equal tonight, Lillian is still going to take the cake. 17 points up for grabs, so Sven Schumacher can still take it if he gets the race win and fastest lap, and Lillian doesn't take the win. And Milan Meyer will have to win the race. Second is also still possible if Lillian stays scoreless. But yeah, if he gets the race win, then Lillian can finish 7th. And then Milan Meyer still needs the fastest lap. But basically for Lillian, if he finishes top 6, then he's sound and he wins it.
And you've got to look at the results here, and the big thing that I'm noting here is 3 wins and a podium in 3rd place, but all the other results are 6s. The lowest we got is a P7, and they missed 2 rounds, so yet to stand here plus 12 points on the rest of the field, it's a testament to their performance, the fact they're standing here. And the only real condition where I'd say it's realistic to expect a win out of someone like Milan Meyer or Sven Schumacher is for Lillian to DNF, to crash out, and for one of those two to get the win with the fastest lap, as you say. They've got such a big gap. And even looking at some of our very consistent performers, they haven't been able to match. Sven Schumacher is the only person who's got more podiums with 5, but even then it's only a single win.
Yeah, that's exactly what you say. I think that is what the drivers, so Sven Schumacher, Milan Meyer, will have to hope for. Unless there's an incident that Lillian is involved in, I don't think there's much hope to see him throw away the title. He would have to have his worst placing of the entire season if he needs to throw the title away. And even then, they still have to win the race. So it's going to be a very, very tough day for Milan Meyer and Sven Schumacher. And for Lillian, well, I think the key for him is just to stay out of trouble. And then he should be sound. And I think we can see a similar thing in the constructor standings as well, where McLaren is a pretty sound lead.
I think I lost you on the mic there, my friend. So
no.
we lost you on the mic there briefly. But yeah, so looking at the constructor standings, it looks like McLaren is in a very, very strong place. The combined performances of Milan Meyer and Leo Lund have resulted in them getting a 28-point lead to Aston Martin in the 2nd place. Simone Violo not really having that much of an attendance record means that they have unfortunately dropped out of contention. And I think, according to your maths earlier, it was a 1-2 with fastest lap if Aston Martin wanted to get this. And given Simone Violo is not attending this round, I think it's wrapped. I think McLaren have wrapped up the championship constructors with a round to go. I know we don't put much emphasis on constructors, but it's still a heck of an achievement as a duo.
Definitely true. Yeah, I'm trying to find if there's any replacements for them, but I don't see any replacements here. Let's see, Alexander Dimas notably also not competing. Yeah, that would mean that's already wrapped up there for the constructors. So Milan Meyer and Leo Lund definitely doing the best there. And yeah, I mean, technically it's still possible, but for constructors to finish 1-2 and fastest lap, I don't think we've seen that all season. We've seen a third and a second for Aston Martin. But aside from that, no team has been able to complete such a feat. So it would have to be very unique for something to even happen. But I think, yeah, last race was quite a decider, so to say.
Yeah, I think it really was what sort of drove it home with Milan Meyer's P2 getting that crucial push that McLaren needed, that even with Leo Lund out of the points, having that boost, having that 12 points to their name was all they really needed, considering Santa Maria only got 2 with their P9 finish. So this is your constructor standing, so we don't expect much to change, but we will see a little bit of a battle for 5th, as Red Bull are very close to taking it from Alfa Romeo. We'll of course see what Sven Schumacher and Nicola Aleda do to defend on that, but that is sort of bygones. The main focus is, I'd say, not so much on the championship title, because things are looking pretty sealed. I am very curious, however. Look at the spread from P3 to P6. Sven Schumacher, Alexander Dimas, even Santa Maria, Reinhard Sprogis, all within just a few points of one another. So where we're really going to see some movement is between these folks.
Definitely true, and you could even include Milan Meyer in that, because he's only 4 points more ahead of that. As far as I know, Alexander Dimas is not competing tonight, though, so he's likely going to drop a little bit more in the standings. But yeah, I think what counts most for these drivers is either the title or they don't mind as much, but it's nice to see still a bit of attendance for tonight. I believe we will have 14 racers tonight with 3 stand-ins also, so quite a few drivers actually couldn't make it. So Jeremy's not here, Corden N'Golo, Corne de Backer, Alexander Dimas, Andrew Karapi, Noel Carlman, Ben Marple, so the entire Red Bull team. Nicola Leda, Arda Gune, and one of the reserves, Vincent Nyquist, couldn't make it. And Sixten Linhart is going to replace Jeremy. Kukeni Thomas is going to replace Corden N'Golo. And Kilian Racek is going to replace Ben Marple. So we should have one Red Bull driver on the grid as well.
Well, say we've got the 14 racers. Unfortunately, it is a case sometimes of where you see the later stages of the championship, people have commitments, people drop off, and often, for a lot of drivers, they're going for the title. So call it, say, perfectionism or whatever you may, but if you're out of contention for the title, some drivers end up dropping out or just saying they're not going to be attending future rounds if they know that that campaign is up. It is unfortunate. It is something that we see all across sim racing, but yes, that is sometimes the way things go. So we will be having potentially up to a 14 driver grid. We have 12 confirmed drivers tonight. We're just waiting on response for 2 other drivers now. And it looks like we are going to be going ahead regardless. So we've got Santa Maria in, we've got 13 drivers, and we're about to get in. So let's talk about the track, and I'll let you take it away.
Right, so tonight for the season finale, we're going out to the Yas Marina circuit that has received a nice revamp in 2021. Circuit now 5.281 kilometers long, or 3.281 miles. Located very close to the city of Abu Dhabi, which is, of course, in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. The track now 16 corners, a couple less than it used to be before, with a lap record held by Max Verstappen, set in 2021 at 126.103. 2 DRS zones, crucially one with a detection zone after turn 4, so just before the straight hairpin where we saw the real world title in 2021 decided, and then with a long DRS stretch from just after turn 5 up until the braking area in turn 6. And we have another detection zone after that left-right combination, so just after turn 7 is the DRS detection, and then from turns 8 to 9, the second straight, you're going to have your second DRS zone. No DRS zone on the pit straight, just those 2 DRS straights that we have. And then you're also going to drive into a little bit of the newer section where we used to have a left, right, left, very fast combination. It looked a little bit like the Singapore slingshot chicane that we used to have, which is also gone now. Fast left-hand turn. And also notably here, the pit lane has a little tunnel, which is quite unique towards the tracks in the calendar, with a pit lane delta loss of 20.5 seconds. That is your key information for the Yas Marina circuit.
Yeah, and say, of course, let's say the tunnel, when they were constructing the circuit, they had effectively complete freedom because they're right in the bay area of the island, so Yas Island. They had pretty much unlimited budget, pretty much unlimited architectural freedom, so that's where you get some of the grand architecture and some of the unique features like the pit lane tunnel, which actually does have a good purpose. It makes sure that drivers coming out the pits do not enter onto the racing line, and that turn 1 has plenty of runoff because it is a hard 90-degree left. But of course, we'll get a much more intimate tour of the 16 corners of this track when we head onto the circuit itself, which we're about to do, as because, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to head into qualifying. So, goes without saying, let us know who you think is going to be the #1 driver, the underdog to keep an eye out for, and a massive thanks to everyone who has supported us thus far. And be sure to like and subscribe to PSGL as we head into Season 35 in the future. You, of course, won't want to miss it. But let's head ourselves in.
And also for the people that were watching yesterday and saw the season finale for F1, was a big congratulations to Jarno Opmeer for taking his 4th PSGL title all the way through the season. I believe his last one was in season 30. He managed to secure it yesterday, although he didn't finish in the points, a little incident there, but it was enough for him to clinch that title. So huge shout out to him. I believe we had one of the highest attendances as well. For a stream, I believe there were 50,500 people watching at peak. So that is, of course, absolutely amazing to see. And let's hope some of these people will also be watching tonight to watch the conclusion of the F4 season with these 13 drivers. And I just see an Alpine leaving the pits, so that will be either Andre Molnar or Harry that will be following first.
Well, so we've also got Kikeni Tomas out on the track. Got the jump right out in the competition as quick as they could, and making sure that they had a little bit of track space all to themselves. So, weird thing about Abu Dhabi, this track, especially after the revamp, is that sometimes the grip level before things have rubbered in, before track evolution has really kicked in, especially on turn 8, sometimes it can be a little bit inconsistent. Drivers are reported. Drivers can be caught off guard. There's a couple of unseen kinks, and that is something that drivers need to be careful of. So I think Tomas Kukeni, as he's swapped the forename and surname on his tag, and we're going to refer to him that way from now on, I think, just to save some confusion. I think he's just trying to get out as quick as he can, and that way he can get the feelers for what's the ideal line early in quali.
That will definitely help him a lot, and of course he's going to have a clean track and a good view of what's going to be happening. There's a couple of people leaving the pit straight now, but the Haas that has just left it, I don't think is going to be in the way when he is going to make his lap. Also in the Haas, so his teammate out there, Rahard Sprogus, who's also got quite a few wins to his name. I think together with Lillian, they're shared for most wins this season. Both have 3 wins to their name, and we're now going to go on board with Thomas Kokeni as he gets on his way for his first flyer, and the first flyer here of the season finale tonight. He makes his way into the very fast first section, so immediately fast left-hander, another second left-hander that you go through almost flat out. He still has full power to the metal, and this is already the end of sector 1. A 17.1 is the first sector time that we're going to keep an eye on.
And looking at the pace, it's all eyes on these 2 DRS zones in the back straight. This is where we're going to have the majority of the moves tonight, as we tend to do in Abu Dhabi. It all comes down to manipulating the DRS, to manipulating your opponents where you want them to go, as you see a little bit of a slide on the rear of Tommaso Cecchini in order to get his car rotated through that left-right chicane. And you can see as we come down to the second back straight, nearly 200 miles an hour. So we're not going full low downforce, not full Monza strat, but we are certainly going for a good balance of speed and grip. But the front turn-in is especially important with the amount of 90-degree corners on this track.
And it looks like he's already finding the grip quite well, almost picking up the track limits there. But you can see the way that he's currently attacking the corners. The grip levels, as you mentioned earlier, are not fully there yet. Now he does hit the apex perfectly in our final corner, turn 16. And the lap that he sets, the lap to beat, is a 121.6. As we have a Williams about to cross the line. That should be Silly Sly Guy. And he's going to come round with without a lap. I think he picked up track limits.
Yeah, we'll see with the other drivers coming down on track now. Sven Schumacher next through, 0.734. He goes second. Sixten Linhart with a 0.380. He's going to eclipse the current lap and is going to go fastest. Leo Lund just 63 milliseconds behind. He's going to put himself firmly in second place for the moment. Big gap to the Haas of Tomás Kokeni, the incumbent lap of this session. Milan Meyer now second in the standings. One to watch, 122.112. They're going to be going out again. As you can see, the Aston Martin behind of Ivan Santamaria. He's not going to be getting a lap. It's track limits, and a few other drivers also still have yet to really put a time down. Rajek is going to be in 6th place here as one of just, say, 8 drivers left to set a time. Big slide on the rear. He is going to get a time, but of course it's not going to be ideal given that last corner. And then you got the second hat of Raj Sprogis coming in even faster with a 0.358, and that is your first round.
Are currently on board, at least I am, with Lillian, who seems to be a little bit slower than Raj Sprogis. He really was on the cards when we go through the section that we find Lillian at now. Sprogis was not making any mistakes there. Car looking really, really good there as Lillian now dives into the final corner. And the lap that he is going to set is quite close, but not close enough, at 21.5, currently putting him in P4. But remember, a P4 would be more than enough for him, as he will be aiming for a P6 classification in order to clinch the title here tonight. His main competitors, Sven Schumacher and Milan Meyer, currently in P6 and 7. But for either of them to have any shot at the title, realistically, they'd have to pick up the race win tonight.
Yeah, and say that race win is going to be strong in their minds. They know what's at stake here. They know just how much of a mountain they have to climb. Balint Alekis now, 121.833, goes 7th fastest. You've got everyone else, though, heading back into the pits because their runs are done. Tomás Kokeni was in the pits pretty quick, and I think they're going to be coming out very soon for a second run.
And the other drivers now mostly on their outlap or already in the pits. We find Andre Molnar is one of the few drivers out on track, currently on his outlap. Silly Sly Guy and Harry without a completed lap yet, but for Silly Sly Guy that was track limits. For Harry, I'm not sure if he has been out already. Andre Molnar is now about to set his fast lap time, so let's go on board with him and see how he can attack that first section here of the Yas Marina circuit as he dives into turn 1. Does take the apex fairly close, doesn't pick up any track limits here. Can go flat out to turns 2 and also turn 3. So looking good so far, aiming for a 17.1, I believe it was. He's now at a 17.2, so dropped about a 10 towards the fastest runners out there. So Sprogis and Linhart. Now on the long back straight, the first out of 2 DRS zones. Also by far the longest straight that you have here in the Abu Dhabi circuit. It's one of the permanent circuits out there on the calendar, and as Sappy, you mentioned before as well, an unlimited budget. It's rumored to be one of the most expensive tracks built out there, although I think the Saudi Arabia track could come quite close to it.
Yeah, I think the Saudi Arabia track is a very close second, and you look at some of the architecture around here, you look at some of the ornate designs. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was a Herman Tilke track. I'm not sure if it was a Tilke drone, but
this one is, yeah.
Certainly the architects surrounding the track did not spare any expense or any shape, because it goes ham. Even the bridges over the circuit have some design flourishes to them. And speaking of flourishes, you got Andre Molnar here nearly kicking the back out, but he's still going to put down a very good time, because that is 5th fastest. And now you have only 2 drivers yet to set a time. You have Silly Sly Guy and you have Harry in the Williams and Alpine respectively, with Tomás Kokeni probably about to set another lap very soon.
Yeah, Kokeni Thomas indeed the next in line to set a lap time there. Andre Molnar getting very close to that lap time from Lillian, 121.566 that he was able to put on the board. pretty good lap going for himself. I'm not entirely sure where he must have lost most of that time, but I think in the final sector we saw a few slight mistakes there, car sliding a little bit, that perhaps would have cost him a 10th or 10th and a half, and that puts him back a little bit. And yeah, as we mentioned, the first sector, a 10th down to his nearest competitors, as Kenny Thomas's first sector is a 17.2, so he is about a 10 down on his own fast lap.
Yeah, I'm watching and keeping a very firm eye on that. Haas is the name of the game. Looking at it right now, it looks like his best is 17.148. That is lower than the sector best, which goes to Leo Lund, 117.084. 35.018 is the best for the second sector, and the theoretical best time is a 121.1. Either way, looking on board with Kenny Thomas here, coming down to the end of the second sector, it looks like we are going to be seeing, again, just slightly shy of those peak times, and 29 seconds to get from here to the finish line.
Yeah, it looks like so far we're not seeing too much track evolution yet, as Kenny Thomas slides a little bit there, indeed, as you saw as well. He did seem to attack the slow section a little bit better, though, so let's see if he has been able to make up any time there as he comes around the final bend. He's going to set a 121.6, so slightly faster, but not as much track evolution happening yet as I thought there would be.
Yeah, so the crucial thing here is that, yes, there is improvement, but it's not enough improvement to get a time down. So the slide guy comes through, it's going to be P9, 21.995. A couple more drivers going to be through. Milan Meyer now is going to be starting. Harry is going to be finally starting their prime lap. I think even Santa Maria also is starting a lap here. So let's take a look at them quickly because they're looking fairly good. You've got a few more drivers a bit further back who are going to be setting pretty strong laps. I think they're on pretty good pace. But let's take a look at this Aston Martin, because he seems, at least according to his first sector, like he's making some real improvements.
In the meantime, Sven Schumacher goes fastest with a 121.2, and it was just on board with Sixten Linhard, who gets extremely close, only 16 thousandths away. Gerhard Sprogus, no, Leo Lund is actually the one going fastest now. Sprogus now comes across the line. He makes up a little bit of time in the final sector, so he knows there's a little bit more in the tank. He'll probably go for 21.2 as well. A lot of drivers now improving, but only very, very slightly. So I think the pole time is likely going to be a 21.0 or 21.1, which is what Leo Lund currently has on his hands. But we were also checking what Milan Meyer and even Santa Maria were doing, with Milan Meyer being the car furthest ahead of them. Seems a little bit out of shape in the third sector, not too comfortable with the car yet, as he's now making his way to turn 16. Does take that one well, and he comes across the line in a 121.7. So far does not really seem to have the pace yet if he wants to take the title tonight. And even Santa Maria, also a 121.7, can't get too much quicker. But the one driver that is doing well is Sven Schumacher.
Yeah, Sven Schumacher really did well there. So he put himself up on that 0.224 before Leo Lund came in with the 0.169. Close to, if not the theoretical best. So a 20.9, the theoretical best time. So that's the sum of all three best sectors has come down to. And everyone is looking very strong. In particular, the run from first to sixth is looking very highly competitive. You've got Lillian down there, but I'm sure they're not going to be staying down that end for very long.
No, I doubt that as well, as we see most of our drivers looking for the pit straight now, as they have completed their second run. A couple of minutes remaining, so I'm pretty sure the drivers will be going for one extra stint to see what they can make out of that. We do have some yellow flags, but that is, of course, for the drivers driving very slowly. 5 minutes and 20 seconds still on the clock. And I think if we time the other sessions well, we'll likely see Kenny Thomas leaving the pits first and start his flying lap in perhaps a minute or a minute and a half. For now, we have a little bit of time, a little bit of a breather as we see our drivers come in. And I think that leaves us a little bit of time to talk about the Abu Dhabi changes. I mean, even though they were made 2 years ago, the changes were quite significantly. And I'm very curious about your feedback on that, Sappy.
Well, I think that it really improves the flow of the track. I think that's the most important part. You don't want tracks too flowy because then you get to a circumstance where you can't get any overtaking if it's just a straight shot. But the crucial thing here is that there's a much better balance of flowing sections, and more importantly, it doesn't feel artificial. So the changes made to turn 5 to turn 8, what was previously the big complexes, to say with you got your left, right, left, and then your chicane right before the hairpin. They brought in the hairpin section just coming out of the first sector, and then of course you had the massively smoothed out banked what now is turn 8. I really like the changes just because it feels a lot less artificial. It feels like a track has a lot more character in its slightly banked corner. It's never going to be the sort of big showstopper, but I still think it's a really good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's definitely improved the top speed and the overtaking opportunity, especially if you look at the DRS zones. You don't want a very slow section before the hairpin going into what is now turn 5. So that definitely helps with what you said, the flow of the track and the overtaking opportunities. But also don't forget the rounding off of the corners in sector 3. That also matter quite a bit. So that will be your turns, let's see, 14, 12, 12 13, 14. Maybe even 11 as well. So a few corners have been rounded off a little bit more just to improve the flow, making sure that drivers, especially in the F1 series, can go around the track a little bit quicker. So that has helped quite a bit. We've seen quite a bit of faster lap times, and that's why we have different lap records now. Because if we compare the lap record currently with the qualifying lap time, there's a 5-second difference that our drivers are quicker. That's, of course, quali setups, low fuel, going full out versus race simulation. That is going to be very, very different, and that explains that time difference. In the meantime, we have our drivers heading out of the pit straight with a whole bunch leaving right now, with the driver that's first in line to go with their last fast lap will be Andre Molnar.
Yeah, it's one that we can keep an eye on because Molnar has done well in runs past. We've seen that they have the ability to push that pace and really surprise us in the commentary box with just how well they can keep the pace lap in, lap out. I think that's one of their strongest qualities, and you can look at prior rounds as evidence of that. Either way, we are going to stick on board with them because now everyone is out. Main thing is that they want to be past the flag before 1 minute 30, because that ensures that even if you make a critical mistake in your qualifying run, you get a second shot as you cross the line.
Yeah, and for now it looks like only a few drivers are making that cutoff point. Andre Molnar definitely one of them. Both of the Haas drivers, so Wout Sprogus and Kenny Thomas, I think will be in there as well. And one of the McLaren drivers, which I believe is Leo Lund. Yeah, it's Leo Lund, who will likely have a shot at that, as Andre Molnar has now started his flyer. And in the first sector, where he dropped a little bit of time earlier on, he seems to be on pace, already a 10th faster than his previous fastest lap time. If he manages to stay onto this, he can already jump 2 positions and put Lillian down to P7. But I think there's more in it to gain from Andre Molnar. We definitely have to keep an eye out for him, as he's now going in what is one of the slower sections of this Yas Marina circuit. It attacks the corner very well, doesn't overshoot the apex, doesn't clip the inner curve there either, so he can take maximum speed coming out of the corner, hugging the left wall as much as he can, so to minimize the distance that you're going to make and thus improve your lap time as much as you can. And look at that, almost 2/10 up on his lap time. Oh, it goes for a very hard slide, and I think that's pretty much it. Not sure if he seems to be continuing for his lap, but he must have lost quite a bit of time as well there. And the big question is too, how much has this affected his tires? I don't think too much. He doesn't seem to be sliding all that much. He's going into the final bit, but I don't think he can make up too many more positions. And Andre Molnar is going to finish with a 1:21.4, losing only a 10th in that final sector. But that mistake looked like a whole lot more.
Yeah, as it did look quite dramatic, at least from our perspective. Kenny Thomas is going to get improvement. It's going to be enough for P8.549, so they are going to get their personal fastest third sector, and I think the fastest third sector of the entire session. So we've got a lot to look forward to with there. Leo Lund now, current pole sitter. Are they going to make an improvement? It looks like they're a few milliseconds up. Are they going to commit to that? Yes, they are. 0.139 for Leo Lund. They're going to extend their lead. Now, next Haas on the field. Rad Sprogis going to come across the line. 1 millisecond improvement. They're going to grow that to half a tenth, but it's not going to be an improvement or a jump on positions. Harry, no improvement, comes across the line here. 5th fastest. Sixten Linhart is going to pit by 14 milliseconds, with Balantalekis making no improvement, and everyone in the field is scrambling for those key times. Racek across the line, small improvement, again not enough. It's a theme that we're seeing. Milan Maya had track limits, and you can see the last few drivers like Lillian only makes 3rd fastest.
A little slide for Sven Schumacher as he comes around the corner. He's just a little bit slower. He's actually 1,000 of a lap time slower than his previous lap time. Shows how consistent Sven Schumacher is. Ivan Santa Maria has retired, so we've had all of our drivers because Kokeni Tamas and Dren Molnar haven't seen the finish flag yet, but they did complete their lap time. So we have our standings here, and Sixten Linhart, one of the substitute drivers, has pole position. He's been showing some incredible pace throughout. We have called his name quite a few times here in this commentary box with some very nice endings to his races as well. But he is one of the drivers I think we should be looking out for next season, because this man deserves a seat.
Yeah, if he doesn't get a full-time seat next season, I will be extremely surprised, because he absolutely deserves it. Done an amazing job in the times that he has been in the seat. He's really proved his pace, and as the wild card of a lot of these sessions, a lot of these races throughout the season, they've proved that they can go toe-to-toe with some of the best of them. So I do expect them to be, at the very least, in a full-time seat in F4, if not higher, because as they've proved here, it looks like they've got the pace to hang with F3 or even more.
Yeah, what is also crucial to note for Sixten Linhart is that he has a natural ability to kind of stay out of trouble. We haven't seen him being involved in too much trouble either. And I think the same is to say for Lil Lund and Lillian. Sven Schumacher, usually not too much involved with that either. And then in P5, we have Rard Sprogis, followed by Harry, Andre Molnar, Racek, substitute driver, Kokeni Thomas, Balan Elekis, and then from P11 onwards, Milan Meyer, one of our still championship candidates, Silly Sly Guy in P12, and then finally P13 for Ivan Santamaria.
There you go, you can see the entire timing board on your screen, but before we get into the race, folks, let's have a quick word from our sponsor, GT Omega. Okay, folks, so just your reminder of where we stand in the drivers' points before we get into the race, as we're just loading in and confirming setups right now. Lillian stands tall, 12 points gap to Milan Meyer, Sven Schumacher in P3. Lillian, of course, only 3rd in qualifying, as Sixten Linhart took pole with Leo Lund in 2nd. So those are your drivers to watch. Some top performers here tonight, and this is the PC F4 finale. Let's jump in and let's jump to the track as we are about to go racing.
Yeah, what is very interesting to note here is that it looks a little bit cloudy. The clouds look fairly dark, and we were discussing it just now when the sponsor ads were running, but this does not look like your average morning clouds. It looks like we might have some rain on the cars, and then in the desert. So I'm very, very curious to see whether we're going to see any of it, as now our lights come on. We have 5 lights all running. And here we go. We are on our way, and it looks like Leo Lund has the best start here, although he cannot get the overtake done on Sixten Linhart straight off the bat. Lillian staying on the outside, just narrowly avoiding contact there with Rard Sprogis, as most of the drivers have made a clean run through the start of the field. A lot of drivers actually starting on the hard compounds as well, so it looks like they'll be going for a long first stint and then likely stop for a medium tire and just go for a 2 car stint, as we see Milan Meyer drop down the table now in P13. Remember, Milan Meyer has to finish at least P2, and then Lillian can't score points, has to win the race, and then Lillian can still place 7th. But then Milan Meyer would also need the fastest lap. That is for him if he wants to have a bit of the race. Sven Schumacher needs to win the race and fastest lap. Lillian can't score any points. And Lillian, regardless of what happens, P6 is enough for him to get the title. As for constructors, because we only have one Aston Martin competing, it means that McLaren has already won the constructor title with Milan Meyer. They looked.
And on the topic of constructors, it looks like with that team dynamic for the Constructors' Championship over, the teeth are already being bared and the elbows are already out. You look at Andre Molnar and Harry, who we've been on board with for a little bit now. You can see that they're fighting tooth and nail for the same position. They're both trying to get that P6 spot, and everyone is just trying to get as much upward movement as they can. So even Santa Maria has dropped off the field massively, and in fact they're going to be heading straight into the pits, as I think that might have been a little bit of damage. I'm not sure what's happened to them. Milan Meyer has tried their best to make up to the field, and then you can see everyone has mostly filed their way out. We had a little bit of position chopping and changing as everyone was making mad dashes through turn 5 and turn 8, but no big setups happening yet. It's the 3 laps before the DRS, so this is ironically sort of counter to what we see before. This is the quiet section of this race.
It really is, although Leo Lund is already having a cheeky look down the inside of Leo Lund. Sven Schumacher has made up a crucial position over Lillian, so that will do him well. Currently finds himself in P3. Also, quite peculiar to note, all of our drivers tonight have started on the hard compounds. Even Santa Maria picked up a little bit of damage in lap 1. He switched his nose, so his front wing, and has now also switched to the medium set of tires. So that is what we see for now. But yeah, our entire top 12 very, very close within DRS range. So we have a train going on behind Sixten Linhart. And when we come round the start-finish line about 10 seconds from now, DRS is going to be activated. And then on the long back stretch, we're going to see the first bit of action.
Here's a little bit of action as race control any minute now is going to give the signal. The Sixten Linhart once again with the fastest lap of the session thus far. Race control is about to chime in, and there we have it, DRS enabled. So this is prime time. Leo Lund's set up. He's been eagling and eyeing up that move. He's been taking a cheeky peeky, all sneaky beaky like. Shout out to CS2, congratulations on the launch today. And as we can see here from Leo Lund, he's going to be getting that DRS, and he's going to be trying to close the gap. Notice how here, as we will have a peek down the rest of the field too, nobody goes for the overtake on the first DRS section, despite having the proximity.
Well, let's see if they're going to try and make a move here down the second bit. But I think these drivers know full well too that if they just stay within DRS range and not use up too much of the energy, that they can save their tires a little bit. With one driver's having none of that, and that driver is Sven Schumacher, trying to go around the outside of Sixten Linhart, meaning he's now on the inside, and he has taken over P1 with Leo Lund making a dive around the inside too. So it's Sixten Linhart losing 2 positions there, even though none to his fault, of course. Not having DRS there is costing him the positions there, but that doesn't matter all too much here at the start of this race. At this point, for all the drivers, it's just key to stay within DRS range so we can pick up as many points as possible too. But also, quite crucially, Sixten Linhart and Lillian are now running together, the teammates, at least for this race. This could mean that Sixten Linhart can play a little bit tactics here and help Lillian secure a little bit of extra points, which, in case anything happens, might be enough for him to clinch the title in case Sven Schumacher does win the race with the fastest lap. For now, though, Lillian is all on course with a P4. Looking good.
Yeah, and looking at the rest of them, it looks like things have mostly stabilized, although amazing move there from Sven Schumacher did mean they got that double overtake slingshot, and I think that's going to be crucial to their race efforts as we progress further into this round. We've got 29 laps, 25 to go, and it looks like the action is just heating up. On board with Leo Lund now. They're going to go with a very wide swing. Going to really come off the racing line. I'm not sure if they're going to be peeking around the inside. Nope, they keep it safe heading into turn 8. There's no movement from the rest of the field, but Lillian is trying to get around their teammate. And I'm not sure if there's a communication there, but it does seem to me that even if they are sharing the same badge, they're not sharing the same motives, especially with the boost that is Sixton's quali pole performance.
Well, I mean, in a sense, the only thing that Sixton has to do is just make sure that Lillian has enough points to his name, and then for the rest, he can just pick up a nice podium. And, well, that would be his second or third podium already this season. He's picked one up at Imola. Did he also pick one up in Mexico? I'm not entirely sure, but I'll get you some more information to that as we are going to continue this stint here, because I do expect our drivers to come in around lap 18, lap 19, although even Santa Maria has already pit twice, one for mediums and now for the hards and the compounds as well, so he's 50 seconds behind. It's not going to be in any real contention unless there's going to be a safety car sequence. Also, another thing to note, since you gave the shout out to the launch of CS2, there is quite a famous man, unfortunately, we lost today as well. A little bit of link to the racing world. Well, the link there being Top Gear. Of course, talking about Michael Gambon, who passed away at the age of 82. Most people know him from Harry Potter, but I think our race hearts here will all remember him from the Gambon corner that we can find on the Top Gear racetrack.
And, ooh, that's going to be contact between Harry and Ratchet, because they both go spinning. They both go for the local Beyblade competition, and they bow out massively, as they're going to be down in P11 and 12 now. They're completely out of contention. But, yes, with the tragic passing of Sir Michael Gambon, of course, as you said, many known from the Harry Potter series, but he's got a very special place in the automotive world's heart. So to quote Jeremy Clarkson, such a lovely man, we even named a corner after him, and there's going to always be a corner in our hearts for Michael Gambon. So just to say, hearts are out to him and to his family.
I think that's the best way that you can put it. Indeed, the quote that Clarkson made, Jeremy Clarkson made, is the best way to sum that up. We're now going to go back, though, to the Yas Marina circuit, where we see some of the drivers pull out of the DRS zone. Leo Lund might actually go for the overtake now, because he is already so close, but still doesn't want to make the overtake. The drivers here now at this stage, they don't want to make the overtake. They want to save their tires a little bit longer, meaning that they can go for this pits one lap later, will have fresher rubber at the end of the race, and can thus make it all the way through the end with that. Although he is now on the inside, he's going to send Sven Schumacher down the longer way around, but Sven Schumacher is going to keep that lead. And aside from the incidents, we haven't seen too many jumps. Milan Meyer, in the meantime, has made his way into P9, but with Kilian Racek, Harry, and Ivan Santamaria being down a couple tenths, a couple seconds also, it is so far looking good for Lillian. In case that he drops back a little bit, P10 would still be enough for him.
And with Sven Schumacher, really has just nailed the balance of that car. We saw right there, Leo Lund tried to get a move on the inside, which by all accounts should be signed, sealed, delivered, it's yours. But he just balanced it on that knife edge perfectly around the outside of turn 8, and he kept the spot. So whatever Sven Schumacher has done in practice or in setup, it's clearly working, as even with Leo Lund, as you're going to see everyone go full tactician here and make sure that they have the means to overtake on the second DRS. Even with that sort of full tactician mindset, although saying that, Leo Lund's not got the patience for it, he's going for it now.
Yeah, it was so close to the back of Sven Schumacher that I decided it would probably be better to go for the overtake here. What I was mentioning earlier on of Sixten Linhart, he has picked up one podium so far. The other race I was talking about was thinking about was Belgium, where he picked up a nice P4 in the end. So he has one podium to his name. Definitely the best reserve driver out in the championship table by quite the stretch. And he's looking to hopefully add another podium to his name at the end of this race. So far, the other championship drivers, Sven Schumacher is currently not in the place where he wants to be, and the same goes for Milan Meyer. Will have to be either first or second if he wants to have any hopes of still taking the title.
Yeah, and I think still taking the title is the real question on everyone's minds. I say, of course, Lillian, they're fairly safe, to be honest, because they got P4, which is already 8 points, and the deficit between 4th place and fastest, or say fastest lap with first, that would still only bring you to 9, which keeps Lillian ahead by 3. So really, Lillian, if these other drivers want a good chance, the only real scenario, statistically, could be a potential wipeout. But of course, we don't want that to happen. At the same time, they've got that much of a lead that that could be what makes it or breaks it.
That is exactly how we can see it now, but now we just saw Lillian try and go for a move on Sixten Linhart, and mind me, he has to look at his rearview mirrors a little bit more with Sprogus behind him. Sprogus not going for a move either, at least at this stage of the race. The good thing that Lillian has here as well is that he can just follow the strategy that his nearest competitors do. So strategy-wise, he runs no risks either. I think strategy-wise, out of his competitors, Sven Schumacher has it going pretty well for him because he can just stop a lap later than Leo Lund and try to clinch the win that way and at least do his part in what he can still do in this championship bid. The other driver, Milan Meyer, currently P9, will have to make some positions up quickly, or he will have to run an off-sync strategy to hopefully try and get him the title. But realistically for him, unless he makes up positions quickly, he's likely going to need a safety car timed well in order to have him help out, at least to jump a couple of places here in the standings. In the meantime, it's also getting a little bit darker on the track. Of course, this is one of the races that we see being run under artificial lights. Of course, not the first track that did it. That was Singapore. Abu Dhabi, definitely a welcome addition to that as well. As for the real world, we have another race at dusk, which we're going to see next weekend in Qatar, where we also may see championship decided.
Yes, and championship decisions. It is looking almost, and say, very, very similar in that the championship has been wrapped up, or at least very close to wrapped up, with, let's say, almost a round to go. And looking at the current standings and sitting of everyone, I think, I had my suspicions about this earlier, but I don't think that Lillian and Sixten Linhart are exactly playing nice, because we saw Lillian with the move, or at least the attempted move, a couple of laps back, and it just didn't land. Say, Sixten deserves to defend for their performance that we saw earlier on, and did defend hard, in fact, as I think they know, or at least they've made up in their mind, that if Lillian's got the championship, I want my fair shot as a reserve here. I'm here to prove myself just the same as any of you permanents.
Yeah, and another thing that Lillian has going for him, in case he does get involved in an incident, which means that he has no hopes of getting a point scoring to his name, the thing that he can still do then is just pit late for softs, set the fastest lap, and immediately eliminate Sven Schumacher from beating him to the title, and then only Milan Meyer can beat him, who would then have to win the race. So it's looking very good for him. Even if he gets involved in an incident, there's still a way out for him, and that means this race will be very, very comfortable for him. So just driving in the train there, he's getting awfully close though to Sixten Linhart, but he doesn't want to make a move yet. Has quite a bit of ERS to his name also, 83% remaining. Sixten Linhart is on 73, and the drivers in front, Sven Schumacher has 83 as well. And with Leo Lund in front, he has 94%. So he has done the most saving, but realistically, if you have more than the 70% that all these drivers have, as soon as you make a pit stop, that's going to be filled all the way up to the brim. So there's nothing ERS-wise that these drivers have to worry about for the time.
Yeah, I think there's a really good point there, is that everyone's strategies are completely normalized. They're completely the same. Everyone started on the hards, with the exception of Santa Maria with the double stop. Everyone is on the hards, everyone has got high ERS, everyone is being very conservative in terms of using it, and everyone is playing the safe game in terms of staying in the DRS. It's not really much in the way of movement, because everyone is kind of playing to the same game and rules, and we're not seeing that level of variation that we've seen in other rounds. Everyone's playing it very safe.
And just to come back to the note that I made earlier on about the track looking quite dark, I thought it was getting very dark outside because of the time of day, but if you are on board with Leo Lund right now and you look outside, I see a lot of dark clouds. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2 right now. I don't see any drivers falling back. No, there are some gaps now. Silly Sly Guy, I think, made a slight mistake now because he's a little bit further behind Milan Meyer than he was. He was still within DRS range up until now. Now 3.3 seconds, so lightly made a slight spin. But the only thing that can make this race more interesting and heat up the championship fight a little bit more is, well, ironically, a little bit of rain, which would normally cool it down, but could in this case heat it up. There's a lot of clouds out there. Haven't heard the drivers speak about any rain incoming, which would be fairly unique for this desert. But the clouds do spell something ominous. What do you think?
Well, I think that, I mean, looking at it from the numbers, it is extremely unlikely for rain to come, but not impossible. As you see, that's going to be Silly Sly Guy retiring out. They had the 3 seconds of penalties, and they got involved with that incident. I believe it was between Racek, Silly Sly Guy, and also I think Harry was in the mix there too. So they're going to be retiring out, and that means that we only have 12 drivers remaining on track, and a good 85% of those are within a second or so to another car. So 75% are all within that first train, and then you've got Racek with 6.4 seconds, Harry with 1.7 behind Racek, and then 53 between themselves and Santa Maria on the double stop. But Santa Maria, they could be a little bit sneaky and make up at least some of that time, because 2 stops and 2 compounds mean that they could, if they're feeling very optimistic, take those hards to the end.
And that would be a very optimistic thing to do, but then again, with the gaps, I don't think that is going to be too ideal, because he's not going to leapfrog anyone when they are going to make one pit stop here. What is interesting to note now, though, is that Balandelekis and Milan Meyer are struggling to stay within DRS range, and it's key for them to stay within that DRS range. Otherwise, they're going to lose too much time with the about 5 laps that we have remaining for this first stint here on the hard tires. Question is going to be in a couple of laps to what tire they are going to be changing to. I think most of our drivers are going to go for the easy decision, the safe option, and switch to the mediums. But perhaps some of the drivers that have to go a little bit off sync, have to try something new, and have to get to the top of the table, they might go a little bit longer and then go for the soft tires. But I think realistically, if there's going to be drivers that are going to be doing that, might be Milan Meyer, because I don't think Sven Schumacher will be taking that risk.
Well, no one's taking any real chances, but Sven Schumacher is going very narrow, as they're going to have to defend from Sixten Linhart and from Lillian, as both the AlphaTauris are getting very close to that black and red car. So you see here, you got the big movement, you had the left, and then you got the right, and then you got the committed of the Lillian outside on the edge of turn 8 and on the edge of grip. You see a little bit of a wiggle there from Rad Sprogis just behind, and Lillian is committed to this move to this teammate. Next time, they're not letting it slide, and even with a little slip of their own, they're up into P3.
That was a very nice overtake from Lillian there. Realized that his only way round was round the outside. Made it stick there, knowing that if you are still side by side for the next corner, you've got the inside line, and then you have got the better of him. Meantime, we see Sven Schumacher go a little wide in the final corner, with Lillian not capitalizing on it so far. But with the drivers seeming to amp up the pace a little bit, I think we're getting very, very close to our first pit stop sequence. In the meantime, Balandelekis and Milan Meyer have gotten back within the DRS zone, and Leo Lund is trying to pull away a little bit. He's now almost 9/10 ahead of Sven Schumacher, but it's still enough for him. Harry has also picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Still on board for the time being with Lillian. Just zooming out a little bit more to see if any of the drivers are trying to make a move, but I think the only driver getting real close to anyone is Andrei Molnar, looking for an overtake onto Reinhard Sprogis, so that is the battle for P5. But aside from that, the gaps are very close, but not too many more overtakes happening for this lap.
Yeah, so Leo Lund right now, he could have a very advantageous play on his hands, because if he can break that crucial second barrier, he's on 7/10 about average right now. Over the course of this laps, he's averaged about 7/10 of a gap. If he can make that to a second by the time he gets to turn 5, he's completely gone. He is out of reach, because then the fighting will become between Sven Schumacher and Lillian, and those two will have no recourse, because whoever's in the lead of that fight will have no DRS. We see someone pull into the side and into the pits. That's going to be Andre Molnar, Kokeni Tamas, Balint Lekis, and Milan Maya. They're all going to be trying to go for an undercut and getting onto the mediums as soon as possible. So I think our top runners aren't going to be much further behind.
Yeah, with them now triggering the pit stop sequence, that does mean that they will likely come in the following lap. And maybe Sven Schumacher dares to stay out an extra lap, but especially for Lillian, this is your cue to likely go in now, because one of your competitors still there, Milan Meyer, has just gone for the pit stop now, and you don't want him to make the undercut. They've likely switched to the medium tires, which they indeed have done, so they will have to nurse them to the end for 15 laps. As we see a yellow flag in Sector 3, that is Ivan Santamaria. What has happened to him? He's driving slowly, but it doesn't look like he's picked up any damage, so he's likely made a spin. Did lose about 20 seconds, even more. He's now further behind. And let's see if he is going to pull into the pits and make any changes to his car. A little bit further back, we see the other drivers, the lead 5 drivers. No, everyone said the race continuing, but the lead 5 drivers have continued on, as Andre Molnar has made the overtake onto Kokeni Tamas. I'm very curious to see if any more drivers are going to come in now.
Yeah, so well, Leo Lund makes the option to stay out. Sven Schumacher goes in, Rad Sprogis goes in, and Seaston Linhart head in. So maybe there is some communication between the AlphaTauris, because I was fully expecting them to double stack. They both wanted to get in ASAP, and that is going to be, see here, so coming in. Is anyone going to jump any positions in the pit lane? It looks like you got Seaston Linhart down the back, because Rad Sprogis made a really ambitious double overtake coming into turn 6. So they really sort of had it out, and they got it done through the chicane, which was a really brave move in my opinion. But they made it work, and now they're on both AlphaTauri's radar.
And also crucial to note is that the drivers that made the stop a little bit earlier, it seemed to work the best for Andre Molnar, who has now jumped into the provisional lead. Milan Myers got the overtake done onto Balin Lekis, but he is still behind Sixten Linhart and has only made up 1 position with this pit stop sequence. And meantime, Leo Lund and Lillian, I'm expecting them to come in at the end of this lap, but they might find themselves right in the mix around the place where Milan Meyer now is, or even behind Balin Lekis. Andre Molnar and Kokeni Tamas are also fighting for position there. That could help them a little bit. I can only imagine Leo Lund actually not coming in, and Lillian doing the same thing here. So these drivers are staying out. Are they going to go for a late switch onto the softs, or what are they trying here?
I think this is a very late switch. This is going to be a very high risk, high reward strategy, because as you say, I think this has really played out in the favor of Andre Molnar. Even Harry is going to be staying out. 16 laps on the hard, mind. Those things are not going to be keeping the pace forever. And you look at, say, for example, Santa Maria, as I'm just going to try and sort of fish some statistics where I can regarding the tires and regarding the life of them. Say the hard tires, they realistically have about 21 laps in them. You can't take them to the end. Luckily, say Santa Maria is in the sort of odd position where there's not that much at stake, but yeah, those hard tires, they're going to have to come in soon because they're losing pace fast. I mean, look at Molnar's gap to Harry.
Yeah, the gap's decreasing by about 2.5 seconds per lap, so that is quite a bit. So for Lillian and Leo Lund, they will have to come in very, very soon. The only thing that's good news for Lillian is he can still follow Leo Lund, do the same thing as him, and try to leapfrog him at the end. Harry is still behind him, likely on the same strategy. He still has a 3-second penalty. And with Racek and even Santa Maria a little bit further down the field and with 1 DNF already, seems very unlikely, even with this strategy, for Lillian to fall outside of the scoring points. And as long as he doesn't do that, looking very good for his championship bid, and we have him in the pits. A pit stop for Lillian as Kokeni Tamas has picked up a penalty, and we have a yellow flag, and that is, I think is it a Williams?
Oh, that was going to be, I think that was Harry again. Harry. That was Harry again, getting caught up in a collision. They got sort of tapped, and that resulted in a massive sort of concertina effect. We saw Sven Schumacher impacting the wall. We saw, of course, Harry being knocked down massively, and we saw Kokeni Tamas making it out alive. But yeah, say that might be something that the stewards scrutinized pretty heavily post-race.
I'm not sure what exactly happened there, but it's it kind of looked like a Latifi incident there, but thankfully no front wing or full car damage coming out there for Harry, so that is looking good for him. The only thing that's not looking so good is he's almost at the back of the field, and he's within still on those medium set of compounds. Robert Sprogas in the meantime battling it out with Sixten Linhart, just briefly seeing how. But look at that, we have 5 drivers so close to each other going into the long left-hander, and I hope this goes well. I hope this goes well. The drivers are keeping it neat, nice and tidy. We have an extra driver joining the battle there. That is Balin Leckie. So many drivers are battling for what is now P3, and Sven Schumacher is leading the charge here. And most crucially for him, he needs to be leading that charge. But actually one of our drivers has gone away. Andrei Molnar is 3 seconds ahead of this pack, and I think he's made a pit stop. I think he has made a pit stop because his tire life is 4 laps old. He's made a pit stop. He's got a crucial 3-second gap to Sven Schumacher, and Sven Schumacher needs to close down that gap. Otherwise, he's got no chance of winning this championship. Andrei Molnar is looking really, really good here because his laps might be 1 lap older, but a 3-second gap is quite a big one.
It is quite a big one indeed, and one that he's going to have to fight to hang on to if he's not careful. He needs to play his cards right at this stage. Don't overdrive it. Conserve the tyre life where you can, because everyone behind you is going to be fighting 3 abreast between Kokeni Tamas, Sven Schumacher, Sixten Linhart. They're all fighting once again. We saw a lot of contact and a little bit of argy-bargy coming through turn 6 and turn 7, but they kept it clean this time round. Now for the second DRS, is there going to be any major pushes? You see the flapping of the wing there. Sven Schumacher really trying to keep it to the defensive and keep it on the racing line, as they do not want to be sacrificing any more positions than they have to. Kokeni Tamas to say up in P2. Say fairly easy for now, but come next lap, these drivers are going to come knocking very firmly. As Robert Sprogas is very keen to join this fight once again, and Milan Meyer is also really starting to become a threat.
Yeah, what is also bad news for the other drivers out there at this moment, Leo Lund and Lillian have gotten back within DRS range. They are on 1 and 2 lap old tires. The rest of the field, 4 and 5 lap old tires. So Harry picks up another 3-second time penalty for track limits. I believe that's his 3rd penalty for the race. And of course, Kokeni Tamas also has a penalty to his name. But crucially to note, the drivers did not really come much closer to Andrei Molnar. Perhaps gained about a 10th in the previous lap. But with the gap being 3 seconds, and there only being 9 more laps on the board, perhaps they shouldn't be fighting too much with each other, but first making sure that they close that gap.
Yeah, the fight should not be with each other. As you can see, Sixten Linhart here, he's going to be committing and going for the move on the inside. He's got it alongside Sven Schumacher. He's going to hang it close. He's going to be afforded the space. Sven Schumacher showing that good courtesy there, as one should when you're on these tracks. These things are not contact magnets. Those wings should not be attracting other cars. And big lunge there from Milan Meyer. I think that was a mistake because they completely fired into the back of Robert Sprogas. I think they luckily just avoided contact in the nick of time. But yeah, he's down in P7, and he's really I got a little bit of a shock just seeing that. So he just didn't slow down.
No, really overshot his corner there. Thankfully did not get into contact with any of the other drivers, but that's also something very key to note here. We have thankfully not seen a lot of incidents this race, so most of the drivers are keeping it clean, aside from 1 or 2 minor points of contact. But I think only 1 wing has been broken at this stage, so that is not all too bad in the 20 laps that we have completed. Now 21st lap that is has now started, as Sixten Linhart right on the tail of Sven Schumacher and really eyeing to make a move. They did seem to close the gap to Andrei Molnar a little bit, as Balin Leckie has now fallen outside of the DRS range of Milan Meyer, which means Lillian is going to make that pass happen, and he has made the pass happen. So we find Lillian in P8, but with Lillian in P8, there is still hope for Milan Meyer. Not so much for Sven Schumacher, but because even if he takes the win, Lillian has enough points to his name.
Yeah, so Rod Sprogis, he got a bit of a challenge up on Leo Lund, but it didn't make it work. He got 3 abreast here. So Milan Maier had nowhere to go. He was stuck on in between Sprogis and Lund, but they're still going to be pushing. Lund, in fact, is going to be going on Kokeni Tamas, as Sprogis is going to be on the outside there. Little bit of tyre bump in there. Luckily did avoid a spin, but he's not letting this go. Not by any stretch of the imagination. You can see up ahead, it's another battle of Haspy McLaren. It's 2 by 2. And everyone in this pack, P4 through to P7, well, they're going all in.
Yeah, and the driver really to keep an eye out for now is Leo Lund. He is on very fresh rubber, but he seems to have the most pace as well, as making up quite a few places down this pack, as he's now looking to close the gap towards Sixten Linhart and go for an overtake, perhaps at the second DRS zone that we're going to have in a few. Also, the gap to André Molnar shrunk quite a bit this lap. About 7/10 has been shaved off. It's now 2.2 seconds, so it's starting to look a little bit better for the drivers just behind them. Kokeni Tamas has fallen outside of DRS range, but I think has still crucially picked up a DRS for this lap, so that is good news for him. And Milan Maier under a lot of pressure from Rahard Sprogis, trying to go side by side into that left-right combination, but Milan Maier is still ahead and now has a little bit of a gap to Rahard Sprogis, who in turn has to look out for Lilian, because Lilian is trying to go around the outside. He did this earlier on, and he's going to try and make it sick. Might even go for a second move, as he's very close to Milan Maier, but decides it's very much safer to not go for the overtakes too quickly. And also here, trying to slow the car down a little bit earlier on, not going for a move yet, knowing that they have time, they have track position, and it's looking good for them.
Well, they have 7 laps to go. We're lap 22 or 29 here, and everyone is looking at where their prospective finish position is going to be at this point. So André Molnar, for instance, he's got 2 seconds up. He has technically got the pace and the proximity, but he's running a little low on ERS, so it might go a little bit down to the wire. You compare that with someone like Sixten Linhart. The heated battle between them and Leo Lund is going to be taking up most of their time, which means that they haven't really got an opportunity to push and fight against Sven Schumacher for that second spot. In fact, as Leo Lund is going to be pushing on the inside of turn 5, and he's going to be getting that move done. Can he keep it? Who knows? They're going to be going to the left, then to the right, then to the left again, then to the right again. That's a lot of moves under the straight, but they're going to be both pushing past Sven Schumacher now. And Sven Schumacher is going to yield. I think he recognizes as a little bit dangerous to keep it on the outside. I think just playing it a little bit safer here is going to be the call, as Lilian is going to be taking it around the outside to make it a move for P5.
Yeah, Lilian's made up 2 places now, one in the first straight, overtaking his championship competitor Milan Maier, and also making the jump onto Kokeni Tamas. I was just looking for who has the fastest lap, and most interestingly, the fastest lap currently held by Milan Maier. So that is looking good for him, because he does need the fastest lap if he wants to help himself out a little bit for that championship bid. But we'll have to make up quite a few places. Maybe his teammate Leo Lund can help him out with that a little bit, because he has now closed the gap to André Molnar, but he would have to back up the field and allow Milan to get some overtakes done, and then he in turn will have to make sure that Lilian drops a few down the order. But I think he might as well also go for just for own glory and try to get that final race win.
Yes, a little bit of a glory run, and everyone wants to win the final race, even if you're not in the championship fight. It's a badge of honor. You win the final race, you stick in people's minds for the end of the season, and Leo Lund is going to be one to take such chances, even so much as to go for the overtake on the first back straight. So he's going to be putting himself in a rough spot, but I think this could be a master tactician move if he's played his cards right with his timings. If he's got this move here, if André Molnar is losing pace significantly and can't keep up, Molnar then becomes a roadblock. He effectively becomes a free barrier, because he can string him along, DRS style, sight style, can string him along and effectively have a free buffer.
In the meantime, though, Milan Maier has dropped out of DRS range quite significantly, and Leo Lund is trying to pull out of the DRS range. So if they do keep it as is, I think Leo Lund has decided to go for own glory, and that pretty much eliminates Sven Schumacher. He also picks up the fastest lap now, and that is something Milan Maier would also need. So it is starting to look pretty bad for him. Safety car well, it's starting to get very late for that to come into play. So far, with the race being as clean as is, it's looking good for them. But Rahard Sprogus, he came into the pits, but he DNS his car, so he's not going to try and steal any fast laps to try and get a few points that way. So he won't be picking up any points in the season finale, means he's not going to leapfrog Alexander Dimas in the standings. As for the other drivers, looks like Citizen Linhart is now coming closer to Andre Molnar and might go for an overtake here on the second straight.
Yeah, I think he could be sizing up a move, but simultaneously, I don't think he's quite got the proximity. He looks very far away to Andre Molnar. We have a yellow in Sector 1, that is just where Sprogus is ghosted out and is retiring. So that leaves 11 positions left in this race, which means that short of coming dead last, which I think is firmly reserved for even Santa Maria, and we are looking at everyone who needs to score points, scoring points, including Lillian, who even down in P7, even down with 4 points to their name for that spot, they will still have the points deficit to be able to clinch this, unless Milan Mayer suddenly pulls it out the bag, jumps to P1 with the fastest, and hits a home run of a race.
Well, Lillian seems to have a little bit of a problem, almost getting into contact there with Balandelekis, but has dropped 3 places in the last lap. I don't see any damage to his front wing, but he is seemingly losing a little bit of pace here. So the big question is, how much pace is he going to lose at all, and is it going to affect his championship run here tonight? This could be good news for Milan Mayer, but the bad news for him is he's 2.1 seconds behind Sven Schumacher, and our race leader, Leo Lund, has a 2.5 second gap to our second driver, Andre Molnar. So without too much happening, maybe Lillian might not be in prime position, and, well, he's actually en route to pick up his worst race out of the season, his worst scoring of the season. Racek is actually closing down fairly quickly, so I think Lillian has a bit of a problem here. But yeah, with Leo Lund in the lead, there's still nothing that he has to be worried about. But Racek is closing down quickly.
Well, I think if Lillian was to get the worst race of their season here in the last round, the only real response I can say to that is that the universe has a wonderful sense of humor. To get the worst result in their championship crowning race, there's a special level of irony to it. But of course, we will see. They are, however, as you said, losing significant time, almost as if there's AI driving. I'm looking at the inputs here. Yeah, hang on. They've disconnected. They have disconnected because other cars are just ghosting through them, it seems. It looks like on the inputs how procedural they are. Yeah, Lillian's disconnected.
Yeah, I see some drivers in the chat also mentioning it now, so that would explain a lot, because you could see the driver was not going, Lillian was not going flat out towards the slower section in Sector 3, so that would explain quite a bit. It could also mean that Harry could still close the gap, but with Harry, he has a few penalties. Let's see how many he has, because that could be crucial. No, he has 9 seconds worth of penalties, so in a few laps you'd have to make up 20 seconds. That is not going to happen. So Lillian, even with these issues, is still looking to pick up 2 points with the AI driving. On the other hand, yeah, his championship competitors, Sven Schumacher, Milan Mayer, P4, P5, it's not in any trouble. So even with this mishaps, well, this bad luck, you could say, is with the AI driving for him, there's still no trouble. The only thing that could really screw him over if he has to go for a pits and lose a position to Harry. But even then, even Santa Maria has some fresh rubber, so he's going to set fastest lap time in a moment, which is going to eliminate Sven Schumacher again. So there really isn't much that he has to worry about.
I'm going to say we got Racek, who's getting a 3-second time penalty for track warnings, and they are going to be pitting in, you say, right on cue, perfectly stated. Santa Maria, 23.4, fastest lap of the session, and he is going to be looking at, say, taking that fastest lap and really sort of mixing up the dynamic here. So Racek is going to be taking bottom spots as they come out of the pits. And I'm very much confused because on one hand, Lillian's position is very curious. If they were ghosted, I would understand it's a disconnect, but it looks like something completely different because they're still solid.
I see people in the chat also mentioning a desync now, so maybe he has some connection problems that's causing him to slow. But look at that, he's even going to his first gear now in this slow corner, and that is not something that you expect the drivers to do here. Harry, in the meantime, has closed the gap quite significantly, but yeah, with Racek going into the pits as well, it looks like Lillian is going to finish in a P8 after the penalties have been applied. We have now entered our final lap, with Leo Lund leading, has a 3.3 second lead. And yeah, as soon as Leo Lund comes around the final bend first, then we know that we have a winner.
And let's look at him though. He's really sort of executed this to perfection. I had my doubts when they stayed out for as long as they did alongside Lillian, get that really late medium stop, but turns out the late game pace is just really strong here in Abu Dhabi. They manipulated the race to best effect. I say manipulated, that's a strong word, I don't mean it in a malicious way, but they have really optimized the race in terms of DRS, in terms of ERS, in terms of who they're fighting with, who they're not fighting with, and the end result is, as we come through the final few corners, they are looking absolutely untouchable. 3.5 seconds, and even with a couple of trades down the back end, as Andre Molnar and Sven Schumacher are going to be swapping spots and then swapping back again through turn 8. It's Leo Lund who has really mastered tonight's race and put a showstopper of a performance to cap off this season.
Yeah, he's now going to come around the final few bends as we go on board with him. Turn 16, our final lap of today. Our race winner is Leo Lund as he picks up his second win of the season here. And yeah, that only cements McLaren in the top spot of the standings. And with Sixten Linhart coming in P2, that means that our championship... Wait, Lillian is in P4. There was a complete desync. We just saw him at a different place, but he was actually in P4. So with a P4 finish, we have our championship winner. It is Lillian.
It's a shame that desync threw us through such a wrench in that, because we could have had so much more to say about that championship win, but no, it's a surprise at the end of the season. It's a little mystery box, but yeah, unfortunately, that desync really played havoc. But yes, Lillian, despite the desync, despite the hurdles, P4, and that is all they need to seal this championship with a tight bow. And as we come to the end of the season, we see the celebrations. Let's look at that timesheet and let's look at how we all did today.
Yeah, see the other drivers mentioning it in the chat now as well, that Lillian had desync, as Sven Schumacher has just noted it in the chat. But yeah, we definitely noticed that here on stream. Might have made it a little bit more interesting because it meant that we had some extra time to run through some extra championship scenarios. But in the end, that did not matter too much. With a P4, they secure their title here in Abu Dhabi as they are the PC F4 winners of season 34. Lillian wins it in his AlphaTauri despite missing 2 races within the season. And I think we can only say excellent performance for them. The worst finish that they got were 2 P7s. It's picked up quite a few podiums here. And with tonight, another P4, another solid result, and a great race for him.
And I think, say, looking at the championship and looking at the race for today, big winners and big losers, of course, Milan Mayer, P11 to P6. We had Keke Tamas, P9 to P7. We had Andre Molnar, P7 to P3. And then the fastest lap ended up going to Racek as the second driver to swap on to the softs. But that is, folks, that is your race. That is your championship. And let's see if we get a chance to chat to anyone. We haven't had much luck in the past, but let's see if we can change that with an interviewee. Maybe even our championship winner, maybe our race winner. Let's see who we can get. But it looks like, I'm going to be honest, it looks more like drivers are interested in arguing about the result, given Lillian's desync, than having a chat with us.
Yeah, they look to be chatting about that currently in our PC F4 chat. But I do hope that either Leo Lund or of course our championship winner Lillian are going to make their way into the commentary box, so we have some time to speak with them. I think overall was a pretty nice season that we could see. Of course, I jumped in a little bit midway through the field. I believe it was Austria when I jumped in, because we had just had Qatar, and I don't think I managed to catch that. And by then, Lillian, I think, was our championship leader, or at that point, no, I think at that point it was Alexander Dimas leading. I'm not sure, but one of the two was leading it. Didn't get to see Lillian the first 2 races, but then when Lillian came back, the first 2 races had to get back in shape a little bit more. But with a race win in Saudi Arabia, a 3rd place in Mexico, a race win last week out there in China, and now a P4 to seal the title here in Abu Dhabi. Some amazing performance by him. And also a big shout out to Sixten Linhart, picking up his 2nd podium of the season, his 2nd P2, and that is a reserve driver. He's going to make another jump in the standings, and he's going to finish within our top 10 of the standings, despite only racing 6 out of 12 rounds. That is outstanding.
Yeah, say that outstanding performance there from Sixten Linhart. We are in fact going to get a chance to chat with some of our drivers, and it looks like we're going to get Leo London here. So let's have a chat with him and let's see what he has to say, because of course, a heck of a final round. And here he is now. So, Leo Lund, congratulations on your result in the final race of the season. How are you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good to end with a win.
Well, man, a few words, but thanks for being here in the commentary box, picking up your 3rd podium here this season, your 2nd race win after your 1st win that you picked up in Belgium with that iconic double overtaking move in the final corner. Of course, today's race was quite different. You stopped a little bit later than the other front runners, but I think after that, it just looked like you had the better pace. And as soon as you got the overtake done on Andre Molnar, it seemed like it was quite easy for you to get away. How did the race go for you?
I was full focused on pitting lap 19 because I know the overcut here is very strong. So it was very good because Andre and them fighted very much. They made much contact, so I gained much time. That made my strat be very good.
That is good to hear, and also interesting to note, you might have seen it already before the start of this race, but with your race win, it's at least a little bit more secure. But you and Milan Meyer have picked up the Constructor's title, securing it for McLaren. How does that feel?
It does feel very good. I have been happy having him as a teammate. Very good.
Okay, that is great to hear. Do you have anything else to ask, Sap?
My main thing to ask is, obviously, everyone started on the hards, you went to mediums, but of course fairly late in the game. Was it your plan to go for a late stop the way you did, or did you plan, like with a lot of other drivers, to go fairly early, try and undercut?
I was fully focused on lap 19, of course, because yeah, the overcut is very strong. So, and my engineer said Sven is gonna pit lap 15, and that is very good. So I think I was really I had confidence because I know I will catch them.
Because the confidence is the kind of thing we want. Well, the confidence paid off because you had over 3.5 seconds by the end, so you really optimized the strategy. Of course, this is where we sort of part ways because it is the end of the season, but what are your aims next season? You're gonna challenge a bit for the title PCF4, maybe look at ranking even higher? What's your goals as we come out of this season and start looking to the future?
My goal is to win the drivers so I can move up.
See, simple as
for
that.
Next season, same. We're gonna see you again here in F4.
I think so. I'm not very high in the drivers.
Of course, we wait and see. Well, say you've got initial trials and pace, so we might see some surprises there. But either way, amazing performance tonight, mate. Been brilliant this season. and so I might see you in the commentary box heading into the future seasons, and with the goals of current, hopefully a little bit more often, as you're at the top of the step a lot more. But take care of yourself, mate. Take a break. You've definitely earned it, and we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
All right, see ya.
Okay, so that is, of course, Violand. We have one more driver who we get to talk to tonight, and it is a very special case of a driver because, of course, it is our series' favourite reserve. It is Sebastian Linhart. So welcome to the commentary box, my friend. Of course, congratulations on your amazing result. Another amazing result to add to your name. How are you feeling, I guess, over the course of this season, as well as today's race?
Yeah, well, really happy for today. I was just hoping to get top 5, to be honest, so really happy with a podium. And then really happy with the season as well, that I could manage after only getting promoted halfway through.
Yeah, of course, you had the opportunity to race, I believe it was round 7, and you put on a showstopper right out of the bat. You got a second place there in that initial round, and then you got the P4 in Belgium, a small break, and then back in for Mexico where you got a P6, and then of course today with a podium again. I'll cut straight to the chase. Are you looking for a full-time seat next season?
Yeah, of course I am. You always have to hope. So I'll just let the coordinators do their thing.
And there you go.
Right.
So yeah, it's a full-time seat. I mean, you definitely proved it out on track in the few rounds that you've had. More in depth on today's race. Did you have a sort of set strategy going in, or was it very much follow the flow of the track and see how it goes?
I was really just following what other people were doing, so I don't get like tunnel vision on the strategy.
Nice. Well, so that's a way to do it. Of course, it's a very reactive environment. Myth, anything for you?
Well, I want to take you back to the qualifying session because you managed to pick up a pole position there. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that was your maiden pole position here in PCF4. How was quali for you?
Yeah, quali, this track has been really, really good for me. So I was just happy I could do it in the session and show what I can do.
Well, I think you've definitely put up a nice standing here. I mean, you've raced in 6 of the 12 rounds. And if calculations from me are correct, you're going to end the season with 37 points, which puts you in P8 of the standings, which is quite remarkable. And yeah, as we just mentioned when we were moving you in, you were quite of our favorite reserve driver this season because you've really made an impression. And I think you've left quite an impression here, at least on stream, at least for us, and hopefully to some other teams as well. How happy are you with your performance this season?
I'm really happy because starting the season, I was told I was gonna be F6. So the improvement I've made, I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, so you should be.
Wow.
Jump over 2 entire tiers.
And I'm still fighting for wins. That's amazing. Well, really nice to get those answers from you. Is there any final words you would like to say to our viewers here? Now we're rounding off season 34.
Oh, just thanks to you guys for commentating. Incredible season. That's about it.
Thank you, mate. It does mean a lot. Well, we're glad you've been such a great presence to have on the track and in the box. So looking forward to future seasons and of course that full-time seat. Hopefully we'll see you much more often in the box heading into 35 and beyond. But take care, mate. You had a brilliant season and I'm sure this is just the start. But for now, take a rest. You've earned it. It's been a long season. There we go, folks. So that was Sebastian Linhart, and that is where we draw things to a close. So, of course, we've had an amazing season. Of course, had an amazing co-com for the second half. So, before we round off for the final time this season, I just want to give a special thanks to you, Miss. You've been amazing. You were great since day one. Of course, jumping in midway through the season is a tough ask because you don't know what you're getting into, and you took it like a champ, and you've been amazing alongside. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for a shout out. It was very, very nice to share the commentary box with you, Sappy. And hopefully for future seasons to come, we'll be able to share the commentary box again. It was nice to jump into F4. Not sure what to expect coming into the season, but we've seen some very heated races there. And it was very, very nice to commentate there, especially highlighting the race in Belgium there, which had some amazing overtaking moves. And I think it was at least my favorite of this season. We've had a nice conclusion with McLaren taking the constructor standings. And of course, for AlphaTauri, your season 34 PC F4 winner is Lily.
And of course, as I say, so just as a reminder of how it works, folks, the winner of the Drivers' Championship in any tier gets automatically promoted and included into the tier above. So, of course, Lillian is going to be making themselves at home in F3 heading into Season 35 as the winner of our Drivers' Championship. And, of course, all of the drivers from Season 34, when Season 35 rolls around, they'll have a chance to replace, to retry. We will, of course, have quote-unquote tryouts coming for that in due time. But for now, as we round off this season, round off this epic series, it might not be with us, but it will be with PSGL and with the great team behind it. I've been Sappy, we've been with Myth. This is PSGL PCF4. Good night.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside off. Here he's through on the left hand side. Hooks the apex, gets all the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.